We're standing on East 56th Street at Madison Avenue, looking up at a building that's almost impossible to see in its entirety from any one point.
Think about it when you're in an airplane flying into New York. After the Empire State Building, the former AT&T building has to be one of New York's most recognizable skyscrapers.
And that's because of the very unusual shape at the top.
You mean the broken pediment?
The broken pediment was a motif that comes out of the classical tradition and was a common motif in the Renaissance, but it was always historicizing. Here we are seeing it on a scale that is completely unprecedented.
It reminds me of colonial era furniture.
So that's a kind of neoclassicism that's referring back to classical antiquity, but by way of the Renaissance.
It's a motif that never goes away.
This building is known as the AT&T building, even though it's no longer that company's headquarters. It was designed by Philip Johnson with John Burgee. It's one of the great examples of postmodern architecture. But in order to understand what postmodernism is, we need to spend a moment talking about what modernism is and where it was when this building was built.
In the 1960s and even in the early 70s, almost every building that was constructed in New York, every tall building had a glass curtain wall, mostly with metal details.
This kind of late modernism was derived from early experiments, for example, the Lever House, which is just around the corner.
Originating in the late 40s, probably had its heyday in the 50s, and in the 60s it began to look conventional. What had once been revolutionary, even radical, was now associated with every commercial building, every corporate tower, and it lacked the energy and excitement that it once had.
And by the 1960s, there was increasing antagonism toward the modern, its sense of being antiseptic, of being anti-human.
People called them glass boxes.
They felt cold. The cliche about modernism was that it removed the decorative, that it removed historical references, that it was a kind of pure form. But in the mid-1970s, this idea of postmodern begins to develop, especially in architecture. The AT&T building is not steel and glass. What I'm seeing is stone.
It's a building that is decorated, ornamented, a kind of collage of historical forms.
Let's catalog them. At the top, the broken pediment, which is an emblem of the historical.
At the base, you have arcades, a soaring round arched entrance, which is flanked by bays. And when you combine the central arch and the side bays, it may remind you of the Pazzi Chapel in Florence by Brunelleschi.
And the half-barrel vault made of glass is perhaps a reference to the Galleria in Milan.
The references don't come from one point in history, but they are shuffled together into one late 20th century office tower.
It's hard to overstate how radical postmodernism felt in the late 1970s and early 1980s.
But is it radical or is it playful?
So many of the postmodernist architects, their buildings look like playthings. They look like they're constructed from bits and pieces, the way a child takes wooden blocks and puts them together.
The origins of postmodernism generally lie with Robert Venturi. And Robert Venturi wrote two very important books that both have playful titles: Complexity and Contradiction in Modern Architecture and Learning from Las Vegas. Clearly, Philip Johnson was influenced by Venturi. But what's key here is that he was building it for AT&T, which at the time was the only phone service provider in the United States.
So this building was meant as more than simply a place to house the corporate headquarters. It was meant as a corporate emblem.
A symbol of this great company. The irony is that by the time that the building was completed in 1983-84, AT&T had been broken up by the U.S. government.
The AT&T building sits between the anti-establishment 1960s and 70s and that new conservatism that was ushered in by Reagan in the 1980s. On the one hand, it's rejecting the sleek glass walls of so many mid-century corporate office towers with its rough-hewn stone facade and decorative forms. On the other hand, in its enormous scale and its purpose, the AT&T building is all about corporate ambition.